Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and welcome to my world of creative crafts. If you're not already subscribed, then please hit the subscribe button, and if you like what you see, please hit the like button too, it really helps. Today I'm making another fun fold card, and this one's using the lovely Night Divine, and this comes in a bundle, these lovely sentiments. So you know that they are generally sort of more religious, for those of you that follow the Christian faith. Obviously that they relate to that, and the Night Divine dies are great. So they come as a bundle, but you know they are just silhouette dies, which I think are beautiful. So you can see here we've got this lovely sort of arch, and then we've got the nativity scene, and then animals to go through it, and a couple of clouds as well. So it also comes with this lovely paper that you can get. So you see it's 12 by 12. You get 2 each of 6 designs, which I'll just quickly flick through. Starry sky, lovely stars. I love that paper as well. This lovely scene one, and that's the one I'm using today. So I've cut it into 3 panels of 4 inches wide, and then I'm using the bottom section for the background, and then the top section for the other panels. Oh, didn't show you the reverse. There we go. Lovely copper clay there. A desert scene, and sort of texture on the back. That would be great for kind of masculine cards, or maybe for people who sew as well. This one's just overarching kind of blue sort of sky, and then a kind of tile effect on the back, and then another desert scene as well with sort of almost like batik. Is it batik? Yeah, so on the back there. So that's the product we're working with, and as I said, you can see here, so we've got a triple layer card. So it creates, as you sort of stand it up, it's sort of difficult to show you, but there you go, it sort of creates almost a diorama feel, but a little bit more open. And on the back there I've put a white panel so you can write your sentiment, or obviously you could stamp one of those lovely sentiments on the back, you know, which would be sort of lovely. I can see, you know, I know a few people for whom that would be wonderful, and that would be super in the centre of that back panel. But yeah, so that's what we're going to make. So quite a bit of die cutting, a bit of stamping and sponging as well, and then I'll talk to you about a couple of ways of getting different effects on that arch. In fact, let's start with that to start off with. So so what we're going to do is actually cut out that arch, and there's a couple of things. The one on the card I showed you, I've actually sponged that afterwards to add a bit of colour and detail, and this one I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. So take your die. I'm going to use a bit of pecan pie, I think, for this one. I tried it with pebbled path, but that was really quite dark, and it's got these colours. So just dab a sponge dauber, and then just very lightly dab that over your die, and what that will do is the ink will, if you're light, will just go on those embossed bits, and they'll really make them kind of pop. Now obviously with this, as soon as you move it, you put it down, it's going to start putting ink. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, but the way I find is best to kind of stop that moving about too much is either to use a bit of post-it note or a bit of post-it tape, which is what I'm going to use. So I'm just going to grab that, make sure you grab it by the edges, pop it down and don't move. So I'm just going to pop that there, just in a couple of places so it doesn't move, and pop that through my die cutting machine. So when that comes out, just if you see, here we go, you'll see you've got those lines in there already. So that's one way. And then if we take one of those ones that I've already die cut, because you know me, I've always got the little pouch with some already in there. So you'll see this is what it looks like normally, to give you a feel. So you see, so just adding that little bit makes such a difference. And then if you wanted to, didn't want to scan that, but you just wanted to sponge it, my ink pad is in fact I think I must have used crumb cake. So you can just, you see, just, but make sure it's fairly dry. So kind of, you see I've sort of, although I've dabbed it in, you then need to almost kind of, a bit like dry brushing, and just put it over there. So 2 different effects, 2 ways to get a bit of texture and to really make that embossing sort of pop. So there we go. Which do you prefer? You'll want 2 of those anyway, because we want one for the front and we want one for the inside. It just makes it that bit more sturdy for the recipient as well. And although I haven't done it with the camel, ideally you do the same with the camel as well. So in that case, here's my camel. So that now you can see the difference here. I've got a camel that's quite plain here, and then so all I'm going to do is again just add a bit of ink to, because you know, ink around the edges just adds a little bit of definition to it. And certainly I know from my camel ride, they come in all shapes and colours and temperaments. Now, for this bit at the front here, I'm actually going to grab my crumb cake, I think, because that's what I found worked better. So there's my crumb cake ink, and what I've got is a piece that is 10.5 centimetres by 2.5 centimetres, so 1 inch by the width of your card, so sort of 4 1/8 if we're in the UK. And what I did was I just took my scissors and just cut a kind of just a gentle kind of dip in the middle there. And then all I'm going to do is just take a piece of post-it note. So I just happen to have, can't see my square ones handy. So just cut a little bit of a curve. Pop that on, and then with your, just gently ink over that curve, and that's going to give just sort of the hint of sand dunes on there, and then sort of, you know, overlap them, ink on the edges. So that's going to be our first panel, and we're going to pop our, once we've got it in place, we're going to pop our camel on there. And I'm actually going to add a bit of crumb cake to that. The pecan pie is kind of coming quite sort of reddish tones, so I just want to dampen those down a bit. There we go, I think that's better. And again I'm going to do the same there. Okay, so that's our first bit. Now our next layer, you'll see we've used some of the DSP on the inside here, and we've got one of the cows and a couple of the donkeys. So in the die set you've got all these animals here, and they're just lovely silhouettes, and they've got little bits of detail in them as well. So I'm going to be using those. So I'm going to want my scene, which I'm going to cut out in black. I'm going to cut out a couple of donkeys in pebbled path and a cow in black. We're going to grab a sheep, and that's probably all I'm going to do. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and die cut those. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so there we go. There we have our die cut pieces. I've actually cut them in out of Night of Navy. I thought I'd see how that looked for a change. See what that. And I've cut a second one as well, just because I thought it might be nice to have a second one behind there as well. So those are all my various pieces. And let's get creating our card. I'm going to pop my dies away as well, so that I don't misplace them. So if you do follow me, you'll know that I tend to use a magnetic sheet for helping with my dies. These ones, because they kind of work with lots of things, not just the stamp set that with the sentiments, I've kept those in a separate one, and I've just popped the sheet that comes with them in the pouch into the front of a stamp set, and you'll see I managed to drop it in a leaky ink pad as well, and that just fits on the front there. So just another way of keeping track. Okay, so clear the decks and away we go. Now you're going to want a piece of card for the back. That's very simple. That's just 10 by 14.3. I want a card base that's 10.5 by 14.85. If you're using, so it's just a quarter sheet. So whatever your card is, a quarter sheet. You want another piece that is the same height as your card, so 14.85, and you want it whatever your width is plus. Well, no, you're not going to want it whatever your width is. You're going to want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches thereabouts. It's basically going to score it every inch on your card. So this one is 17.5, and I'm just going to score that at 2.5 centimetres all the way along. So 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, and 15. And I have deliberately left that large one bigger than usual rather than just a standard 1/2 inch, because I felt I wanted to kind of make sure there was plenty of weight at the back and space to join that onto my card. If you were being really frugal, you could just make 1/2 inch or a centimetre longer if you wanted to. And you're just going to simply reinforce those. And as you go along, just make sure that they line up. They are nice and straight, because obviously at this point you could kind of correct it as well. So you then want a concertina from the front. So you're going to go mountain, valley. And that one actually it's probably a little bit wonky. There we go. Mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain and valley. So you're going to end up with this sort of concertina piece. Angle at the back there, because then if it is slightly out, it isn't going to matter. And glue your main panel on the back there. Now, what I'm going to do, you'll see there, I just want to make sure that that is nice and flush. So just open it out and make sure it's lined up. So put that to one side after you've popped your DSP in. So as mentioned, I took this panel, so that's just 1/2 centimetre, 1/4 of an inch smaller, both height and width. And I'm just going to pop that on there. So for me that's 14.3 by 10 centimetres, and that creates our background scene to start off with. The next layer we're going to do is going to be our kind of, yeah, our bower. And I mentioned before that you wanted a strip that's 2.5 by 10.5 centimetres. So you want to put that on first, because that's going to help support, and you don't want it kind of floating up. So fold it down and pop that nice and flush with the bottom of your card. Once you've done that, you can then add adhesive just to this left hand leg. You see we're just coming up to that corner there, and you'll see I've just popped it into the corner. So you can come slightly over onto there. And you want to pop that so that it is just on the left hand side, like so. You see, just lining up with the outside edge. Now you'll see I've been a bit heavy handed with my adhesive there, so I'm just going to grab a little scrap piece of card and get rid of that excess now. And I can come in with a glue eraser if I need to afterwards. So once you're happy, just pop a bit of adhesive on the bottom of there so that one will stay in place as well. Now once you've done that, you can take your second one and opening it out, you're going to glue it to the back there. So you want adhesive on all of this. So I'm just coming over, as I say, using Tombow because it gives me the wiggle room. If you wanted to, you could cut it out with adhesive sheet. That would work as well. And I'm just going to layer that over the top, just direct onto there, and then down the side. And what I found was that just made it just feel that bit more substantial. So now we've got our frame in place, we want to add in our nativity scene. So on the first one I just did one layer, but to be honest with you, I think I'm going to put a second one on as well. Now when you die cut, you will find often there's some texture on the back there. So if you want to not have that showing, then what I would just pop it through with a piece of just copy paper behind, and that'll just take some of that texture away. Or obviously just put a brand new plate in, but you know we can't always afford those, every single time we die cut. So I've just put that on the very edge of that there. I'm going to open that out and then put a second one behind there as well. So I'm just going to add our adhesive to our figures. Now if you wanted to, you could obviously put one in black actually, to create like a drop shadow effect if you didn't want just the plain sort of navy. That's another thing to do. And I'm just going to pop, just run along the edge there, because obviously I haven't got any adhesive in that in place there. So I'm just going to pop that in place, and that's just going to make it a little bit more substantial. Okay, so we'll leave that to dry. So that's our next layer. And so now we can put our next layer in as well. So this one is slightly lower. I wanted the stuff of the animals not to kind of encroach too much. So this is 2 centimetres wide by the width of your card. So in my case 10.5. Now you might find that it overlaps slightly, and if it does, that's fine. You can always trim it off afterwards. So just make sure that it's nicely lined up on that bottom edge. You want it to sit flush to the base of your card. And then pop a piece of DSP. So this is 2.3 centimetres, 2.2 centimetres, so about 7/8 of an inch by the full height of the card. So 14.85, or obviously if you're in the States it'll be slightly shorter. And just pop that in there and bring that up. And that's just up to the edge of the fold. So it's covering up our piece here. We can now add our animals. My donkey and my cow. I've just done a silhouetted cow here. And I might pop a sheep just slightly further down, like so. Just create, a scene that's pleasing to your eye. And then the next bit is our very front piece. So while that is dry, those are drying, I use it with my Tombow because I tend to be a bit heavy-handed, and it's now not going to play. Okay. Right, in which case, Tombow it is then. So just a tiny bit on there. And I'm just popping that. Now because I've used Tombow, I'm actually going to pop that to one side and wait for it to be a little bit more tacky, which works well because I can add this panel onto the front here. But not before I've put my Starry Sky piece on. So this is where I've kind of got the Starry Sky in the background. So again, 2.3 by the height of your card. If you've got a piece that's slightly shorter, that will work as well because the bottom part is going to be hidden behind our sort of sand dune. So pop that on. Add some adhesive to the left-hand side of our sand dune. And again, concertina it all up and then add to the front. Because again, you want to make sure that that's nicely layered and nice and straight. Not wonky like I've just made it. There we go. Okay. If you get any excess, just scrape it away with a bit of card. And then pop our camel. I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive on the head of the camel. And that will actually avoid me having to put another camel die cut. So, all that remains to do is add our panel to the back of the card, and that's just gluing that in exactly the same way. And there we have our fun kind of diorama type standing card. And when you might just need to crease that frame slightly, and that will then stand in a staggered way like so. And you will get your sort of diorama effect. So, hope you have fun creating. Please hit the subscribe button, and if you'd like to purchase any of the items, pop along to Stampin' Up and select me, Heidi Smith, as a demonstrator when you check out. Use the host code and then I can send you your thank you gift as well. Thanks for watching. Come back soon. Bye.